Most AI businesses that people jump into now aren't even businesses in the first place. They were fun ideas built on a trend that was all over social media that people thought that they could make money off of. But just because you can make money off of something for 3 months in a row and then it makes no money anymore because it's dead, does not mean that it was a business. It means that it was a trend or a side hustle. Businesses last, they grow, and they have a moat. They're not built on trends. So in this video, I'll show you 3 gaps to look for when trying to identify an AI niche to make sure it's actually a business. And the thing is, with AI now, anyone can be a jack of all trades, but you don't get to charge high prices unless you're a master of one trade. It's actually quite hypocritical of me to say that because I've tried to make iOS apps. I have, I believe, 2 or 3 of them in the App Store right now. Tried to make my own software or SaaS apps before, and I'm pretty familiar with the AI service industry as well. However, I'm not going to try and tell you that I've made millions of dollars doing this because I have not. I'm just here to share my knowledge with you based on what I've learned. So here are 2 ways that people pick niches incorrectly before we get to the 3 major gaps to check for. The first is a super low barrier to entry. This is a classic business example where it takes either no skill or no money to get into an idea, and therefore anyone can do it, and it doesn't require any sort of special knowledge, time, or money. Low barrier to entries are typically trends. They don't last very long because everyone does it, and if everyone can do it, you can't charge money for it. But the primary problem with these is the fact that they only last 3 to 6 months. And the problem with the low barrier to entry is if it doesn't even last more than 6 months, you literally cannot put in the years of effort required to actually get good at it in order for your business to take off. Which leads to the second common mistake, is chasing a money number instead of actually evaluating, is this even a business? To make $10,000 in 1 month, you have to find 100 people that are willing to pay you $100. There's 8 billion people in the world. You think you could find 100 people that want to pay you money? And let alone, like, $100 is a decent amount of money, but not anything crazy. Yes, obviously, there will be 100 people that will pay you $100 right now, but that's not the problem. The problem is actually reaching them. Because if your business lasts 3 weeks, you could get 80 people. Great, you just made $7,000, $8,000. That's amazing. But now there's no business. It's a trend. It's gone. So now you have to go find something completely new to sell to these people. So yes, you could find 100 people to pay you $100, but you have to find 100 different people every month in a completely different niche, and you're not going to be able to stick to that in the long term because you're constantly switching because you're riding trends. Do you know anybody that uses a phone book now? Besides maybe like great grandparents or grandparents? Probably not, because we have our iPhones, we have phones, and we have contact lists in them. You could easily find 100 people to buy a phone book from you 100 years ago, but now it's not a thing anymore. And so you can't go find 100 people if there is no market available anymore, if it's dead, and it's dead because it no longer is needed. It was replaced by something better. In the same way that if you're selling something that in 3 months is going to be completely out of business, so will you. Which leads me to the market gaps. You get paid for the gap between what you can do and what businesses cannot do. It's a simple, you know how to solve a problem that they're having because they either don't know how to solve in the first place, they don't have the time to solve it, or there's too large of an opportunity cost. Or what that means is basically they're better off paying you to do it and just doing what they're doing, and they actually make more money that way. If a business owner knows that he needs 3 weeks to learn how to use AI, but he also knows in those 3 weeks he could just do what he usually does for business and make $10,000, then he would be much better off paying you $2,000 to do it and then just do business for those 3 weeks and don't even worry about learning a new skill because he's still $8,000 up. Make sense? And another side point, a lovely quote from Jeff Bezos, but he doesn't care what is not going to be around in 10 years. He cares what will be around in 10 years. Is he's always paying attention to what is not changing, while everybody else pays attention to how many changes are going on around the world. And the reasoning is because if it's still going to be around in 10 years and it won't change, that means it's worth your time. Market gaps are either risky or durable. And the 3 that we're going to cover is lag, complexity, and fit. Lag is a time gap in the market. Complexity is an effort or monetary gap. And a fit gap is basically who it's for, which of course I'll break down further if that didn't make any sense. Lag gaps are very risky, and then complexity gaps and fit gaps are very durable. However, you can have more than one gap at the same time. Gap number 1 is the lag gap or time gap. The market always lags a new release and you work in that gap. For example, if a new AI model was released today, you know tomorrow morning every single person in the entire world is not going to be using that AI model. There's a lag between launch and market adoption, and you work best in that gap. So the only requirement of you to stay ahead and keep your competitive advantage is to just know more than everybody else. It's an information gap. You likely still know people out there today, maybe it is you yourself, who are still using ChatGPT and have no other concept of any other AI models. Like a 13-year-old girl would say, that was so 2 years years ago. The upside of a lag gap is that you don't have to be the best at what you do. You just have to stay ahead, but that's also the biggest problem with the lag gap. Because if ever a free version of something drops, or for some reason there's some wide adoption or requirement to adopt some new piece of information, suddenly your competitive advantage can be gone overnight. For example, we'll use the ChatGPT and Claude example. For those of you who are still using ChatGPT and have no other concept of any other AI models, say tomorrow morning the US government makes the most advanced Claude models and Claude code free and mandates that you learn it in the next week. Suddenly, your competitive advantage is gone in a week. Now, realistically, is that gonna happen? No, probably not, which is exactly why we're working with it as a competitive advantage, even though it poses a little bit of a risk. So in summary, the lag gap is the time between market release and consumer or market adoption, and you are renting the gap in between to profit off of the people who haven't caught up yet. You're doing them a favor because you are catching them up in exchange for a payment. However, if for any reason whatsoever, via mandate, requirements, or pure bad luck, that lag gap closes and suddenly everyone is caught up informationally in one day, your competitive advantage is completely gone. Gap number 2 is the complexity gap, which is probably your best bet, although I would definitely advise you just take all 3 of these gaps and try to find a market that fits all of them. This is the durable Bezos bet, where is it still going to be around in 10 years? Go for it. The core is that busy people or successful people will always be busy and they value their time. The core principle of this gap is that successful people will almost always be busy, and so it's actually less worth their time to go and learn a new skill and more worth their time to keep doing what they're doing and pay somebody else to do it for them. So your question is it niche enough or challenging enough, take enough time or take enough money that they will not go and just do it themselves? They will have to pay somebody to do it because it's more efficient that way. You want to target the businesses that are busy, have money, not the people who are seemingly busy but don't have any capital. This is a pure knowledge gap, not timing, and this one's a lot more strategic because there will always be cases where businesses will stay busy because it is just the better option. It is literally the better idea for them to pay you to do it for them instead of going to learn it themselves. Both people benefit in this situation, and this is the best one by far to lean into. A good tip for this is that it's not always about AI or necessarily what cool thing you're doing, but it's about the outcome that you're providing. I don't think any business owner particularly cares what you're doing as long as it's ethical and legal, as long as they get the outcome that they want, whether it's faster, better, or cheaper in some way. So in summary, you are the middleman selling business owners results because you have some sort of skill that is not worth their time to go and learn. They're actually better off just continuing doing exactly what they're doing, paying you to do something for them. This one requires a bit more expertise, but it's a lot safer in the long term. The third and final gap is the fit gap, or who it's for. This is for big one-size-fits-all products where they serve the average person, but the product isn't the edge anymore. It's the fulfillment or the marketing, because anyone can make an amazing software product. Anyone can make pretty much anything online with AI. And so everyone can make the perfect product, which means that the market's actually going to diverge away from one core product that runs everything into a bunch of small micro or specialized products. A good example is MyFitnessPal. That was the calorie tracker that everybody used to use, but now we have things like Cal AI and numerous other ones that use photo. And this served the people who wanted less specificity in the amount of calories or macros that we're recording, but wanted ease of use. So the MyFitnessPal users might still be wanting the super specific and accurate calorie counts, while the other people weren't really too worried about that in the first place. They just wanted to track it easily and they were worried about the friction. Now it's serving 2 different markets, and it will slowly break apart into dozens or hundreds of little mini markets that each have a super specialized product for somebody's needs. And the nicer part that doesn't contradict any sort of math that I've done in this video is that the more niche you go, the higher prices people are willing to pay because you're solving more of their problems. And so my analogy about, say, having 100 people out there, well, I'm basically advocating for, instead of 100 people, serve 1 or 10 people. Well, then you'd be making 10 times less money, right? But you can charge 10 times the price. And so it comes out to about the same anyway. Because the more specific the product, the larger the problem you're gonna solve, the bigger the pain point, and the more they will be willing to pay you. However, all gaps eventually close, which is why you need a moat. The lag gap, you are simply renting a space and time that could collapse at any moment. And while the complexity and fit gaps are incredible options, complexity gap does require a bit more expertise or experience. And sadly, the way the AI is going, the fit gap is eventually going to be closed because every single individual will be able to make their own individualized solutions using AI. And that is the terminal state of the fit gap that I'm referring to. Instead of having one product that serves everybody, everybody makes their own product. And so really the core solution to this is to create your own moat or your own core offer, personal brand, whatever it may be, that survives trends, it survives the market, it survives any sort of gaps. And you do have to surf or ride these gaps in order to get to a place where you're actually able to have a moat or a brand in the first place. Some dude who's made zero money didn't wake up overnight and become Alex Hormozy. He did it the hard way. And eventually that gave him the experience that was necessary to supersede all of these gaps and establish his own moat and personal brand in the process. So I advise you, ride all three of these gaps, try and find a niche that applies to all of them. And these don't necessarily just apply to AI. That's just my niche. And so that's what the video is titled about, but this works for pretty much all businesses. But don't forget about your personal brand or moat, because eventually gaps close, and in order to supersede them, you need to build a rapport and experience, a brand around you, and that's how you scale in the long term. So the final checklist, the lag gap is the release to adoption gap between the time when the market releases it and everybody has it. Is there a gap there? Can you fill it? This doesn't require nearly as much expertise as it does just keeping up to date on what you're doing. However, it's higher risk and it can be replaced overnight if for some reason information is mandated or it becomes easily accessible to the masses. Complexity gap, your question to ask is it hard enough or complicated enough that busy, successful people are just going to be more willing to pay you to do it than learn themselves? Is it literally worse on their time to go and learn a new skill rather than paying you and continue to do what they're doing? If yes, you found a complexity gap. And lastly, the fit gap. Is there a specific niche group of people that have a problem that the large industry-wide apps, services, anything ignore that you can create a product for and target? This will be more niche, you can charge higher prices, but inevitably or terminally so, everybody will be able to create their own solutions with AI. So this is a more dangerous one in the AI niche specifically, because the terminal state of making AI or software products is that there is no one seller. It's that everybody makes their own and doesn't buy from anyone else. So while you're using these gaps to establish some sort of credibility or experience over time, that will then allow you to create a moat or personal brand, unique offer, something like that will aid you in the future. However, you don't get to that point until you do the work, and it needs to be ratchet. It will never be perfect. And with that in mind, saturated is a myth. There's always room in the market for another successful $10,000 a month business. But if that market is only going to last another 3 months, it's probably not worth getting into in the first place. And you should avoid trends. If there's 100 YouTube videos about it, it's probably a trend. AI consulting, AI automation, it's all pretty much the same thing. You're fulfilling a gap in the market to do with AI. For people who don't know about it, it's all the same service business. There's just buzzwords that go around. Focus on the principle. You are the middleman in a market where you know more or you have some ability that this other business is not. You're fulfilling services to them. It is that simple. Your options with this, especially with AI, is info, service businesses, or a product such as a software product, app, or the fourth option that I just want to mention really quickly is just no business at all. Adopt AI in your work life. You will outperform everybody else, get raises, and you will be the one that replaces everybody else, not AI. Because the truth is that AI is not coming for people's jobs. It's the colleague of yours that knows how to use AI that's coming for your job. So why not be that colleague in the first place? At the end of the day, almost any business can hit $10,000 a month. What keeps it from doing so is you. The problem is not the business model. The problem is you sticking to it for long enough to eventually become successful at it. It's not about the money. It's not about the perfect niche. Just start. But the better that you pick which niche you're getting into, the easier it will be to stick to in the long term. And if it's easier to stick to in the long term, it's easier for you to win. If you found this valuable, which I really hope you did, please click the link in the description. It's my Skool community. At the time of recording this video, it is free. I go deep into all things AI related and business related for those people who both do not want to start an AI business or any business in general, and those people who do. So it will be nicely divided between those of you who just want to get better at using AI and not fall behind, and those of you who want to make money with it. If you can leave this video with one thing, it's that business is never going to be easy. It will never be get rich quick. So you have to be willing to put in the work. Once you accept that, you'll be closer than ever to the success you can only imagine.